So good.
All right.
Launch into the ultimate you. Please tell us about that.
Right. Okay. So when I first started in health, I realized that for me, I felt the best way to, when I started learning about health, it was very all-consuming, and it felt like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to be able to do everything it takes for me to be healthy all in one go. Because I'd have to change my lifestyle, I'd have to take a week off work, I'd have to, get a £5,000 loan just to get everything that I needed to be ultimately healthy. So what I decided I was going to do is I was going to take things in a step-by-step basis. So one week I'd try and cut out MSG. The next week I'd try and cut out more, more of the sugars. The next week I'd have lots of herbal teas. And then the next week I'd experiment with different detoxing forms and different aromatherapy oils. So this book has been about 6 years in the making. And there's been big hiatuses where I never worked on it at all. But I finally fine-tuned it down to a book where basically there are 39 steps that you execute on one a week, so that in just under 10 months, you will have, in many ways, transformed your diet, your body, and your psychology, your mindset, to living in a much more holistic and a much more natural way. So for people who maybe aren't in a position to work with a naturally you coach or a nutritionist one-on-one, this is a very simple step-by-step guide that anyone can use and follow on a weekly basis, just implementing one simple step a week and seeing the fantastic results that people will get with it. And when you are able to just concentrate on one thing at a time, the likelihood of you achieving it is 100%, whereas people who sometimes dive into a new healthy living lifestyle unsupported will find that they're maybe in a little too deep. They're trying to work things out on their own, and it can become a little bit too difficult. So that's the reason I wrote that book, and it's been hugely successful so far. A lot of people like how easy it is to implement. I wrote the book the way that I would talk to someone, so it's not full of jargon or anything like that. It's literally like me just sitting there and talking to you. Okay, this week we're going to do this. Are you up for it? Okay, let's go, David. This is it. And then next week we move on to the next step. So it's a really simple, easy guide for people who want to kind of dip their foot in the water to make a move with and make a good start with.
Right. That is good. And I like the color scheme and all of that as well. So tell us, where could we get a copy of that?
You can get a copy on my website, which is www.davidl.com, DAVIDEL.com. And you can download it as an ebook, so you get it instantly, which can be quite helpful because then, firstly, you save paper, and secondly, what some people do is they just print off the pages for that particular week, instead of printing off the whole book all at once, and then literally they just focus on doing that one step, and then the next week comes and then they print off that step as well. So they can either download it as an ebook or you can buy the physical book.
Okay, great. And what's it retailing at?
It is $14.99 for the physical book and $9.99 for the ebook.
All right. Is this Jamaican dollars, Ghana dollars, pounds?
Oh, sorry, that's in pounds. I'm not sure if we converted them at the moment. I'm sorry.
Remember, we've got international listeners, so yeah, they'll be very curious.
Okay.
What color money you want?
Okay.
The
yeah.
The image on the cover, is that you by any chance?
No, but it's a very lovely lady. No.
Yeah?
I'm on the front of the other book.
Naturally You.
Yeah.
Which you're about to talk about now, yes. Go on.
The Naturally You recipe book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. This book is actually a free book, so we don't need to know what color of money I need for that one. That book is a free recipe book. It's got 19 recipes in there, as well as some information on how to improve your hygiene in your kitchen. The number one and the easiest way for you to control your health. There's an article on there giving you the number one way of doing that, and I tell this to all my clients and everyone that I work with, but I'm going to let that be a surprise to anyone who goes and gets themselves a copy of that book. But the book has got 19 recipes, like I said, and the recipes are, there's some raw vegan recipes in there, there's some vegan recipes, there's some vegetarian recipes, and then there's also some recipes for people who like poultry and fish as well. And that one, you can go to, again, my website, davidl.com, and you actually get that free when you join my newsletter, which is a weekly newsletter where I just, again, share information on natural hair and natural health and living.
Okay, great. And I imagine the video, you've got a video as well that's attached to your promotions, isn't it?
Yep.
All right, and they can, where would they be able to see that?
Oh, the video for, okay, there's another book, there's a video which explains a bit more about the Ultimate You book, and that's on the site davidl.com. And then the other book that I have, which has a video promotion to it, is called Leah's Raw Food Feast. Was that the one you were thinking of, maybe?
Because I'm looking at Natural in 90, is it Natural in 90, seconds? Yeah, Natural in 90 seconds.
Oh, okay. That is actually a whole video series of quick natural health tips that I put together and put out on YouTube. So that's actually not connected to the books. It's just something I put out there for people to, again, get quick natural living tips.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty good, especially people who have access to the internet and who are very curious about having an animated description of what you do. And I believe you have that at www.youtube.com/user David L. Health. Yeah?
That's right.
Okay, great. So we should have some people kind of logging on to that. Now, one thing I'm always curious about with entrepreneurs is what drives them. What drives you, Leah?
Wow. I was actually asked this the other day, and it took me a minute to really realize what it was. And I think with a lot of entrepreneurs and with a lot of people who are into health, it is sometimes I found, well, not sometimes, largely it's been people's own experiences that have caused them to kind of push a particular lifestyle. And very much the influence that I got from my teacher, Dr. Malachi Z. York, too. One of the things that he always used to say is, don't believe me, check it out. And he says it up until this day in all of his books and materials. Don't believe me, check it out. That, plus the experiences that I went through working in the health environment, in hospitals, and thinking that I really did know it all about health and nutrition. So with all of those things put together, I just don't like to see people suffering unnecessarily, especially when I know that when I was suffering, I felt that there was no way out of it. I felt it was embarrassing, it was painful, it was just something that I know I didn't have to go through, and I knew that there was a way out of it, and the way out of it is something that I want to share with the world, which is that you don't have to suffer unnecessarily. If you're overweight, you don't have to be. If you're miserable in your life generally, you don't have to be. We don't have to just eat what's promoted on the TV. Our children don't have to end up with hyperactivity disorder and be prescribed dangerous drugs. There is a natural way to do things. There is a wholesome way of doing and living that if everyone really did take on that diet and that lifestyle and just that mindset that, don't believe everything that you're fed. Check it out. Work out what works best for you. Work out why it is that certain foods are pushed and others aren't, and why it is that hospitals make so much money and drug companies make so much money, but farmers who are trying to produce organic fruits and vegetables aren't supported in the way that they should be. And one of the things that I kind of loosely promised myself is that, one of my goals is to make, and someone else said this as well, so I'm kind of taking it on as well, is to make the only operating room in a hospital left the accident and emergency, because just as our ancestors had it, the only time people ended up being in need of any medical attention is when there was a war or an accident. We didn't have all the diabetes clinics and cancer facilities and HIV centers. We didn't have all of that. And we can go back to that. It's not that hard. We just need to go back and look at the examples of our ancestors. So I think that really does drive me, knowing that there's a better way and everyone can experience it. And when we do all experience it and we are all in a much better place, then what? What can we all do? How can we all benefit the world when we don't have to worry about sickness anymore? It will be a fantastic place. It will be a much better place.
Yeah, I can even visualize it from where I sit. The difficulty I have, Leah, is that if I were let's say, beverage manufacturer, the teachings of Leah Salmon would not ring too well with me. How do you keep motivating yourself doing that, knowing full well that the status quo, the people that make all these things that make us ill, are powerful, rich, and influential?
Because we can be just as powerful and just as rich and just as influential. And the reality that's becoming a lot more prevalent these days is that the people aren't having it anymore. People aren't having it. We're a lot less gullible. Even though there are a lot of people who have got no idea about natural health or whole foods, a lot of people are, and manufacturers, they may not like what we have to say because it's going to cause them to have to change their ingredients and change their food preparation techniques and things like that. They know that that's where the money is. The natural health industry, the raw food industry, vegan foods, dehydrated foods, vegetarian foods, it is a multi-million-dollar industry throughout the world. So those kind of companies know that they're going to pretty much soon have to toe the line, or they're going to start losing customers. A lot of them know that. A lot of companies, thankfully, have already started taking things like MSG, which is a very dangerous food enhancer, flavor enhancer, or meat tenderizer that we use in West Indian cooking a lot. A lot of companies have taken that out of their foods, and it used to be really typically found. Aspartame, which is, again, a very dangerous sweetener, has been taken out of a lot of foods as well. Trans fatty acids, which is the worst, or hydrogenated fat is the worst type of fats you can find. They're coming out of foods as well. So maybe 5 or 10 years ago, our job would have been a bit more difficult, but these days, manufacturers and big corporations know that they need to start coming to people like me. They need to start finding out, okay, do you know what, how can we make our foods more healthy? Because we know that that's where things are going. And the more, because every time you go to there's a documentary called Food Inc., and it explains how the food industry is being run and all these things. And they said in that documentary that every single time you go to the cash register at a supermarket, you are voting. You're either voting and telling the food companies that you want more crap food, or you're going to vote and tell them that you want more holistic food. So the more we buy the more wholesome foods, the healthier foods, that is what we're telling the industry we want. So we can make a substantial difference, and we already are.
Well said. I don't know. It's just because, I frequent the supermarkets like most of our listeners and whatnot. You see all these different brands of stuff that they say is good for us, but then, of course, we know that there's always a catch in that sort of thing. But I applaud your persistence. I applaud the integrity with which you do what you do. And all I can say is hats off. So in a minute, in 60 seconds, Leah, tell us where you see David L. in 5 years.
In 5 years, I would love to have opened what I've been dreaming about opening for a number of years, which is a center that is funded by the other work that I do that teaches children how to eat healthily, that has plantations and allotments in the back that grows the organic food we're able to give away freely to people who maybe can't afford it, and have a place where people can come and get alternative treatments and therapies for their illnesses and learn how to treat themselves, so that David L can be the place where people can go to naturally get healthier.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Well, there you have it, folks. Leah Salmon from David L talking about natural healing and natural health and the implications of some of the food that we buy, that we take for granted, milk and so on, for example. So I'd like to thank Leah for taking the time out to talk to us about her book, The Ultimate You, which you can find on www.davidel.com, and for enlightening us on what's happening in the food industry. So thank you very much for coming on this week, Leah.
Thank you.
And there you have it. We've now come to the end of the 9th edition of Caribbean Close-Up, brought to you by Carib Direct. And we look forward to speaking with you with another surprise guest next Thursday, same place, same time. So enjoy yourselves, take care of each other, and good night.